Hello, 702, and welcome to your Module 4 preview. So, in Module 4 is the last module of the first part of the class where we've talked about and really delved into traditional and seminal text that are part of EESJ and critical inquiry, and our iterative understandings of those concepts, as well as some of the relationships to your own problem of practice and how you have framed your context through your problem of practice. So if we look down here, you can see that Module 4 is only 1 week long, and actually it hopefully provides you with a little bit of a breather because you only have one entry into your developer notebook, and it's kind of a culmination, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So this week we have no hard and fast required learning materials for you. If you found something in the choice materials or the cohort generated materials that you thought, if I get a chance, I'd like to read that, this is a good time to take advantage of that. One of the big things that we're doing this week is you are meeting with me, and we're going to be talking about your work in the course, your work generally, how you're doing in the program. And one of the parts of our conversation will revolve around this mid-course self-evaluation of how you're doing in the course. And the due date was actually at the end of module 3. But really, the real due date for you is you just have to do this before you meet with me. So if you're meeting with me on Friday, you should probably have it done on Thursday. If you're meeting with me on Monday, you should probably have it done on Sunday. So I will put these in as complete after I meet with you. This will help us of your discussion and kind of prep and save us a little time in our discussion of where you're at, because I'll read these before I meet with you. All right. And then, of course, the actual check-in. It's not particularly long. It's only about 15 minutes. And this will provide us for some interaction on where you're at in the class, what more you need, and also where you're at in your project itself. We can schedule a longer meeting if you want to from this. And this proficiency-based grading procedures are kind of how we look at how we'll evaluate you in this course. And this is just kind of a time for us to talk about how you're doing. All right. So really, in place of, assigning you reading material this week, what we want you to do is choose a book to read in the latter half of the course. So the first half of the course, we read Pedagogy of the Cross together, and all of us read that because it's a foundational text in EESJ, even though it's been moved and used in lots of different ways since its conception. This is your chance to pick a book that may further your understanding in a direction you want to go, but it needs to be around topics of EESJ and critical inquiry. So we have a list here of 13 books that you can choose from, and many students have really gotten a lot from these, and it's part of the content of the course, but you get a little leeway of choice. You can ask us to read a different book, but both Dr. Miller and I would have to see if that falls under the content of EESJ. So it would kind of have to come through approval, and then we'd say yes or no, this doesn't follow the content, and then you find another book. Either way you go, these are really great choices. On this particular page, you can find descriptions. There's little descriptions where it says here, if you just kind of want to browse first. So maybe you want to look at all the books, look at all the descriptions and kind of get a feel and then narrow down from them. We expect this, to take you about an hour. Really think about the book that you're committing yourself to for the rest of the semester. Something that will help you think about your context in general, and think about the concepts and dynamic context of education in EESJ and critical inquiry. Once you go through the process of choosing the book on that other page, you're going to fill out this book study survey. And all it basically asks you is which book are you reading. You'll just put that in, and that's it. It's not really very lengthy. The lengthy part was on the other page where you're actually choosing the book, which might take you some time. All right. The culminating activity for this half of the class is your M4 Act. And what we're looking for here is how are you understanding the course content, EESJ and critical inquiry? And how are you able to connect that to your action research dissertation project? Now, of course, many of you are not doing a critical research project, but it could be that larger global or national conversations around your topic might actually have very deep connections to EESJ. So I'll give you an example. I have a student in another class who's looking at, she's doing something new with teacher evaluations and relationships with principals. Now, her actual study is not a critical project, but she does take the time to look at the literature and talk about the inequities of teacher evaluation and high stakes, and even maybe the lack of development that those inequities and the process at a global and global, national, and district level might perpetuate, and how her actual study, which isn't looking or critiquing the system for itself, is talking about how it may help to alleviate some of these imbalances by doing supervision differently. So basically, she's using a larger frame where she is connecting her basic topic to the larger issues of EESJ. And that may be extremely relevant to your case. You may not be doing critical theory project itself where you have to also critique dominant and normative structures, but you may see that it sits in a larger context that really does have EESJ components to it. So we've allotted 4 hours for you to do this. And part of this process is for you to go back and look at everything. This is where we really need to see you incorporating our feedback and the feedback of your peers. If you want to note on the side that you've done that, that's great. That helps us out. But we will also be looking back at your previous work and then looking at where you're showing how you're using the literature more from this class, how maybe you're thinking about reframing or situating in an EESJ concept, or if you're not, that you can explain how your context is not using EESJ just as well as somebody could explain that it is. Again, this is the culminating event. You get a lot of feedback on this, which will eventually help you in the very last kind of thing we do, which is in your module 7. And that is it for your module 4 work this week. And remember, only a week long. You do have a breather. Take your time looking at the books, see what you want to commit to.